Alright, what is going on YouTube? Running Gun Sports back here with another video. Today is our weekly college football news update. Got a lot of college football recruiting news to talk about today. Looking forward to it. Just released our not the Minnesota Vikings off-season review video. So if you have not seen that video, please go check it out and leave a like on it, subscribe, and share it with your friends, especially if you have any Vikings friends. And with that being said, like this video as well. Follow our social media pages at runandgun_sports on Instagram and at runandgunsports on TikTok. And the NBA playoffs currently still going on. And with on Sunday, the Suns defeated the Clippers in Game 1, 120 to 114, to take the first game of the Western Conference Finals. And then the Hawks defeated the 76ers in Game 7 of the series to win the conference, to make it to the conference finals. And then on Saturday, the Bucks defeated the Nets in overtime, 115 to 111 in Game 7, to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And so the Bucks versus the Hawks will be a very interesting finals, and a finals that I don't think anyone really expected. And we'll see what happens tonight. The Suns are playing the Clippers at 6 p.m. and so that will be a good game with the Suns already leading the series 1-0. So with that being said, let's get right into the video with five-star defensive lineman Mykel Williams commits to USC. Five-star defensive lineman Travis Shaw announces his top 4 schools: North Carolina, Clemson, North Carolina A&T, and Georgia. And Travis Shaw out of Greensboro, North Carolina, most likely going to stay in the Carolina area, and we'll see if he ends up at North Carolina A&T. And probably their highest commit of all time if he did end up going there. North Carolina A&T, a smaller school, and it would be very interesting to see if they would be able to pull a 5-star defensive lineman. Very unusual to see a team like them in the running for a guy like Travis Shaw. And with Georgia and North Carolina and Clemson all in the same conversation, you don't hear North Carolina A&T in the conversation with those 3 teams. So just very interesting, and if they can pull them out, maybe. I highly doubt it, but there's a chance if he made the top 4, they did something right. So we'll see what happens. Sherrod Colville Jr. commits to Clemson. He's a 4-star safety. 4-star Torreno Pride Jr. commits to Clemson. With that commit, it moves Clemson from number 23 in the class of 2022 rankings to number 19 in the class of 2022 team recruiting rankings. 4-star cornerback Kamari Rogers commits to Miami. 4-star cornerback Jaden Gold commits to USC, 6'2", 190 pounds, from New Jersey, Oradell, New Jersey. 4-star quarterback Nico Marichol commits to West Virginia. 4-star running back Gavin Sawchuk commits to Oklahoma. Huge pickup for the Sooners, and with them already having Raleek Brown, one of the best running backs in the class, a guy that I really like to watch, and from Mater Dei High School. And I think that combo together is going to be very fun to watch, and I'm excited to see how they do with that team, and what the offense will look like with 2 solid running backs. Oklahoma hasn't had the best running backs, and so now they will, and it will be very interesting to see how those 2 guys do together. And yeah, 4-star running back Dalen Hayden commits to Ohio State. Moving on now, guys, we're going to be going over our top 5 college football wide receivers going into the 2021 season, and putting this list together. There's a lot of guys on here, so we're going to start out with a couple of honorable mentions and kind of give you our reasoning why these guys are not in the top 5. And So let's start out with George Pickens. Obviously, he possibly could have been number two on my list. He would have been probably number two on my list. But obviously, the injury, the torn ACL, really hurts. And so I don't want to put him in the top two, just considering the fact that he may not even play this season. So unfortunate, but I think George Pickens is a great talent, and whenever he does return to football, whether that is in the NFL or at the college football level, I think he'll do just fine. And very unfortunate injury for him there. Another one I have is Anais Smith, and he easily could have been on the top five, but I just think that a new quarterback coming in for him is not going to be that helpful for them, and so I think that will kind of hurt him a bit, and I think that's why he's not in my top five. Another one is Keyshawn Butte from LSU, and another guy who they don't know really who's they're going to be their quarterback next year. So just the uncertainty, who's going to be throwing the ball is really just a red flag for me. And I think that those guys will all have great seasons, but I think that these guys that I'm going to put in my top five are going to have even better seasons. So with that being said, let's go on with number five, Charleston Rambo from Miami, the Oklahoma transfer. In 2020, he had 25 receptions, 312 yards, and three touchdowns. And Derek King, obviously one of the Heisman favorites right now after coming off an ACL injury himself. And I think that they can honestly do some pretty special stuff together, and I think it's going to be exciting to see Charleston Rambo with a very solid quarterback. He's played with Spencer Rattler before, so we'll see where he does better, and obviously didn't have the season he looked for, and probably part of the reason why he transferred out of Oklahoma. And I think that if De'Aaron King can get him the ball well, at the end of the season, we'll see what team he did better on and whether he was a bit overrated or not. And the stats will not lie at the end of the season, but I think that he will do better with Miami. At number four, I have Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, a guy that's, as his freshman year, came out and was balling. And 43 receptions, 723 yards, and six touchdowns in his sophomore season last year. And I think that he's going to have a good season. Ohio State, probably the best wide receiving core. And I think that it's not going to really matter who their quarterback is. CJ Stroud is not that good. But I think that if you have that good of receivers, I think anyone could throw him the ball. At number three, I have John Mechie from Alabama. And he had 55 receptions, 916 yards, and six touchdowns. And I think that he's just going to have a breakout season. He's going to have a huge season. I think he's my favorite right now for the Biletnikoff. And here's why. I think that being behind Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, the two best wide receivers in college football last year, and still having 55 receptions and almost 1,000 yards receiving and six touchdowns, looking at who is number one and number two, we'll read those stats off here in a couple of moments, but he's right up there, being behind two of the best wide receivers in college football last year. So that's just impressive, and he'll be the lead guy for the wide receiving core of that team. Another great wide receiving core, and I think John Mechie is really going to break out next year and will easily have 1,000 yards receiving at least. And I'm really excited to see what he'll do. At number two, I have Romeo Doubs, wide receiver from Nevada, and in 2020 had 58 receptions, 1,002 yards, 9 touchdowns. And another reason why he's very high on this list, Carson Strong, the Mountain West leading passer, is coming back for the Wolfpack, and I think that he's going to do so good with his star receiver Romeo Doubs, who is very impressive to watch this past season. And I think that them together, they already have good chemistry. Obviously, those stats are really good, and I think that they'll do great. But another thing is, Romeo Doubs and John Mechie's numbers are not very far off from each other, so I think that really helps John Mechie's case of having a great season next year. And Bryce Young was looking very solid in the spring game, so I think it's going to be very exciting to watch. Number one, I have Chris Olave from Ohio State. In 2020, he had 50 receptions, 729 yards, and 7 touchdowns in only 5 games. So right there, that's 10 catches a game. that's very impressive. Chris Olave, I think, really shouldn't have come back this year. I think he could have declared for the draft last year and probably could have been a first round pick. And not sure why he's coming back, and I don't think that coming back does him any good. I think the only thing that could happen is he gets hurt and his draft stock drops, and that would be very unfortunate, but that's a true possibility, and just a really questionable move of him coming back. I think that they're trying to win a national championship. He wants to go out as a winner of the national championship, but that's not going to happen with C.J. Stroud at quarterback. I think that they'll make the college football playoff, but they'll definitely lose in the first round to a better team, whether it's Alabama or Oklahoma. One of those teams will beat them by a lot, and I just think that it comes down to quarterback play, and I think that those Spencer Rattler and Bryce Young can lead the team a lot more better than C.J. Stroud can. But as I mentioned, John Mechie's numbers aren't far from number one, number two. So watch out for John Mechie this year. And if he wins the Bolitnikoff, come back to this video and we'll see what happens. With that being said, that will wrap it up for today's video. If you guys have not already, please leave a like down below, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Thank you guys so much for watching.